Yo, what's up guys? The iPad lineup is better than ever, which means it's even harder to make a decision nowadays. I can't tell you which one that you guys should choose because I just don't know what your needs are. But what I'm gonna do in this video is break down why I chose the iPad Pro so that you can use these comparisons and the process to make the decision of your own. Let's get right into it. So the first question I asked was, why do I want one? So the first thing I would do is make a list of what you would use it for. So the reasons I wanted to use an iPad was so I could digitally take notes. I wanted something that would get rid of my notebooks because I feel like I just wasted notebooks left and right with just scribbles that only I could read. Next, I wanted something that I could read books on. I have my bookcase over here. It's filling up pretty fast, and there's few books that I would read over and over and over again. So I wanted something digitally where I could actually read them first, and if I do like it and I feel like I want to buy it, I can just go buy the hard copy later. I also wanted something I could edit photos on. I use Lightroom, and yes, I do use it on my phone, but sometimes it's just a little too small. And I wanted to use the Apple Pencil so I could have more precision on when I make these edits. I wanted to also edit videos. Sometimes I feel like I'm just stuck in my room and the creative juices in my head sometimes get stagnant, and I wanted something where I could be more relaxed and just let the creative juices flow. So I wanted an iPad so I could even hold on my lap, I could lay down, and I'm not gonna feel uncomfortable doing it, but something powerful enough to be able to edit 4K videos. And of course, I wanted an iPad to stream movies, especially when I'm on the go. I've been traveling a lot lately, and having my iPad where I could just set it up on an airplane and watching movies I've downloaded beforehand is so nice. Next was being able to project plan. Filming this video, for example, I use Notion to map out what I'm gonna say, map out what kind of shots I'm gonna take. So I needed Notion, and having Notion on my phone, the checklists were really hard for me to actually see. I have to scroll back and forth. So on an iPad, it was a big enough real estate where I could see that checklist clearly, check them off as I go. Lastly, I wanted to use it as a second screen. Yes, I have a widescreen monitor, I can split it in half, but there's some use cases, for instance, when editing videos, I want the whole screen for the timeline, and I still wanted to be able to use my iPad for something else. Maybe I wanted to stream a football game that night and I couldn't do it on my computer, and I don't have a TV in my room, so an iPad was the next best bet. So for me, I needed a big enough screen to comfortably stream videos, to use as a second screen, and to take notes on, and something powerful enough to edit photos in Lightroom and videos on an iPad as well. So I immediately took the iPad mini out because it has a small screen and it lacked an M1 or M2 chip. Now when it comes to the iPad Air versus the iPad Pro, it doesn't really have any differences in terms of the capabilities for those use cases. The newest iPad Air actually has the M1 chip, which is the previous version of the iPad Pro. So there's really not much of a difference in terms of those powers. So the next question I had to answer was, what are the different features between the iPads, and is the price worth that difference? Now for the mini, it has an 8.3-inch display. When I compare that to my iPhone Pro Max, it is barely bigger. So the mini is mostly used for basic use cases and just for the convenience to put it in a small bag or your purse. And people out there love the mini exactly for those reasons. It is a great iPad, especially for kids because they have smaller hands. But in my opinion, it's just a bigger iPhone Pro Max, but without the Pro camera. It comes in at $499 for the 64 gigabytes and $649 for the 256 gigabytes. The real comparison now comes down to the Air versus the Pro. So let's list out the main differences between the Pro and the Air iPad. Starting off with the display size, the Pro model has up to a 12.9-inch screen size with a mini LED display, and then the 11-inch of the Pro has just a LED display. The Air has a max of a 10.9-inch with the LED display. The mini LED is nice, however, a 12.9-inch iPad seems overkill. I would probably just take out my MacBook instead. The 11-inch is still small enough where I would grab my iPad when I'm on the couch rather than taking out my MacBook. So for me, the Air would make more sense in this decision. Next is the Pro Motion Display. The Pro uses a 120Hz display versus the Air's 60Hz refresh rate. What this does is allows for a smoother experience when scrolling through the iPad or using the Apple Pencil. Now this is a noticeable change if you're used to using Pro Motion and then you try to go back to a 60Hz display. And for me, using an iPad to take notes every day on, I want to make sure I have the best experience, so this is actually very important for me. So this one's gonna go to the iPad Pro. Number 3, the M2 versus the M1 chip. The M2 chip is said to be 1.4x faster than the M1, 18% faster CPU, 35% faster GPU, and a 40% faster neural engine. But right now, the apps can barely use the power of the M1 chip, so this difference is barely noticeable. So this one is gonna go to the iPad Air. Next is the Pro camera system. They both have a 12 megapixel wide camera on the rear, but the Pro also has a 10 megapixel ultra wide camera and a LiDAR scanner, and it comes with the flash. On the front, they both have a 12 megapixel ultra wide, but the Pro's true depth camera enables portrait mode and emojis. Honestly, I don't think I would ever use my iPad for pictures in the first place. I'd much rather use my phone, but I will probably use it for like FaceTime and Zoom calls, so I will give this one to the Pro. Next one is a big one, it's Face ID. The Pro allows you to open it using your face, while the iPad Air still uses Touch ID. This convenience is super important to me, so I'm gonna have to give this one to the iPad Pro. Next one is storage and RAM. The Pro has up to 2 terabytes of storage, versus the Air maxes out at 256 gigabytes, and the Pro has up to 16 gigabytes of RAM, versus the iPad Air maxing out at 8. For most people, 256 gigabytes of storage is definitely enough, and in my case it was too. So for this one, I'm gonna give it to the iPad Air. Next is speakers. The iPad Pro has 4-speaker audio system versus the iPad Air's 2-speaker audio system. I don't know about you, but I mostly use my AirPods while streaming movies on the go, so the speaker system isn't a big deal for me. So this one goes to the iPad Air. Lastly, the iPad Pro M2 version has something called Hover using the Apple Pencil. This allows you to see where your pencil will go before you write and shows cool haptic feedback over apps. This is also the main difference between last year's iPad Pro and this year's. This is a cool feature and it gives a luxury feeling, but it doesn't add too much functionality yet unless you use the iPad for drawing. However, I would give this one to the iPad Pro since I will be using this feature all the time, as I'm mostly using this iPad for taking notes. At the time of this video, the iPad Air's lowest model is $599 for the 64 gigabytes and $749 for the 256 gigabytes. An 11-inch Pro is $799 for the 128 gigabyte and maxes out at $1899 for the 2 terabyte model. However, for me, I wanted the 256 gigabyte model, and for the Pro, it costs $899. There's only a $150 difference between the Air and the Pro 256 gigabyte versions. But that $150 difference gets me ProMotion, faster processor, the convenience of Face ID, the hover feature, and all the other upgrades. To me, that was worth $150 for an iPad that will last me years and is something I would use every day. This reminds me of buying popcorn at the movie theater. The small is like $8, but to get the extra large or the biggest one, it's only $2 more. However, there is a better option. If you can find a 2021 iPad Pro for a good deal this holiday season, then I would get that. Since there wasn't really any big differences and the holiday deals may be significant, I would go with the iPad Pro 2021 version with the M1 chip. This was the thought process I used to make my decision, so if you guys are undecisive, use the same process, answer those questions. What do I need an iPad for? And what are the feature differences, and is it worth that price difference? For me it was, but for you it could be different depending on your use case. So if you guys like this video, please subscribe, follow for more videos like this in the future, and I'll see you next time.